Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially over for the Democrats, and here's why. Because not only has President Trump just dropped nightmare news for Somalis in Minnesota, but wait, there's more. Former President Joe Biden completely collapses on stage after saying something so strange, so odd, so bizarre that no one can believe the words coming out of his old and senile mouth. Nevertheless, the media tries to run with it and ends up tripping and falling off hard as the cracks have already begun to show, and the whole entire Democratic illegal and undocumented scheme comes crashing down on top of them. MAGA and the GOP dismantling their evil plot and scam, fraud by fraud, illegal by illegal, criminal by criminal, lie by lie. As always, subscribe to my channel for more hard-hitting facts and truths exposed like this, and because it really does help out a lot. Thank you. All right, now buckle up, folks, because this one's a wild ride straight out of the depths of the deepest and darkest of feeds, and it's definitely got lots of drama, evidence of fraud, and fiery video clips of recorded takedowns you absolutely don't want to miss. Today marks the 1st of December, and my, has time flown by. It's late 2025, and President Trump is back in the saddle, unleashing a storm that's got the radical left scrambling like rats on a sinking and burning ship. We're talking massive fraud scandals, insider whistleblowers, and Trump dropping truth bombs that could level a city block. This isn't hyperbole, and this isn't just politics. It's a full-on expose of how Minnesota turned into a playground for scammers under Tim Walz's watch, with Elon Omar right in the crosshairs, and how it stretches all the way to DC under Biden's watch, or should I say, former President Autopin. But so you see, folks, now the Somali community there in Minnesota, they're waking up to a nightmare they never saw coming. And let's start at the epicenter. Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes and apparently billions in stolen taxpayer dollars, and how it all just blew up when MSNBC's Kristen Welker grilled Governor Tim Walz on Meet the Press about a jaw-dropping fraud ring.
Well, speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, dozens of folks from East African descent, yeah, that's code for the Somali crowd, got charged with swiping over $1 billion from government programs during COVID. And that's more cash than the whole state of Minnesota spends running its entire prison system each year. Terrible Governor Tim Walz squirmed like a worm on a hook, admitting his state attracts criminals, but then pivoting to praise the Somali community as educators, artists, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs who bring diversity and energy. They even have the nerve to have Somali stars award ceremonies.
kusoo dhaweynaya gobolka Minnesota oo sharaf u tahay inuu martigeliyo xafladii Somali Hero Awards. Xafladaas oo ka dhici doonta meeshan gobolka Minnesota December 20, 2025. Yaan laga maqnaanin xafladaas oo ah midii ugu horeysay oo lagu sharfayo dadkii 35 sano la soo dhaafay wax weyn ka bedelay ummadda Soomaaliyeed gudaha iyo dibaddaba. 2025 sanadkii 2025 waxaa si official ah u furmay magacaabitaankii u furnaa dadweynaha inay soo magacaabaan 5.
But get this. He even begged Trump to, and I quote, "Come help us while demonizing anyone calling out the crooks." That's Tim Walz for you folks. But here's the kicker. Insiders leaked shocking documents. These whistleblowers from the Minnesota Department of Human Services spilled the beans in a viral post that racked up nearly 19 million views already. They warned Walz about the fraud early on, but instead of partnering up, he retaliated, monitoring, threatening, and discrediting them. The New York Times even called it out, saying, fraud swamped Minnesota's social services on Walz's watch, with Somali diaspora groups pulling the strings. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if that doesn't make your blood boil, just wait till you hear about the other worsts of the worsts and their latest scams.
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Oh, my. Well, he's already thrown off. Look at her face, because she knows the type of question she's proposing to a Democrat here. But here we go.
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
Dozens of people of East Africa.
Wait a minute. But it gets absolutely worse. Take a listen to how he kind of surrenders here.
Community. And as far as demonizing our Somali community, maybe he could help us on some things. Demonizing an entire community, folks who are in the professions, educators, artists, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, they bring the diversity and the energy to a place like Minnesota. And for him to just randomly decide to do this, it makes no sense. Do your job. Get the criminals out. Secure our border, but do it with dignity and respect to the American tradition of respecting immigrants and refugees as a beacon of hope.
Well,
so let's break down the context of the interview and the fraud scandal, because yesterday on November 30, 2025, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz appeared on NBC's Meet the Press with host Kristen Welker, where he was pressed on a massive fraud scandal involving over $1 billion in taxpayer stolen money, dollars from the state and federal programs, primarily during the COVID-19 era. The schemes centered on nonprofits like Feeding Our Future, which funneled money meant for child nutrition, housing, and services for vulnerable groups, including those with autism, into fake companies and non-existent services. Federal prosecutors have charged or convicted at least 59 individuals. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I believe it's more like almost up to 80 now, many from Minnesota's Somali community, in what stands out as one of the largest pandemic-related fraud cases in the U.S., exceeding the state's annual budget for its entire Department of Corrections. However, Kristen Welker's direct question, do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state, highlighted whistleblower complaints from over 400 Minnesota Department of Human Services DHS employees. And by the way, kudos to MSNBC for even bringing this up, because usually we just don't see this. But either way, they accuse Walz's administration of ignoring red flags for years, retaliating against those who raised alarms, and fostering a cascade of systemic failures that allowed the theft to balloon unchecked. One employee likened it to someone stealing money from the cookie jar, and they just kept refilling it with more cookies, underscoring how lax oversight turned warnings into a billion-dollar catastrophe. Okay. And so now, when analyzing Governor Tim Walz's response, we notice two things: deflection and not accountability. Because Tim Walz's reply was more of a non-answer, and all it did was he just kind of sort of sidestepped personal or administrative responsibility entirely with, quote, Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can, but to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy. And then goes on about dozens of people of East African descent. But let me be frank here. This comes across as a classic political pivot, boasting about the state's overall health, AAA bond rating low, childhood poverty, while framing the scandal as an inevitable side effect of success that attracts criminals. But let's break it down even further, factually and critically. And number one, accountability is absent. He takes no ownership, zero, of oversight failures. Walz didn't address the DHS employees' core allegation that his team dismissed fraud alerts and punished whistleblowers instead of saying, we should have acted sooner. He implied the problem is external and Prosperity drawing bad actors or something or another to that effect. And this, folks, all it does is it ignores how the fraud exploited his state's programs, with federal auditors noting Minnesota's case as exceptionally egregious amid nationwide pandemic thefts. Critics, including myself and many other Republicans in Minnesota eyeing the 2026 gubernatorial race, argue this makes him look feckless, as if good governance means celebrating ratings while billions vanish underfoot. But we move on to the next and mustn't ignore the demonization card that he likes to play as a distraction.
11 Investigates exposes yet another state program designed to help people in need being ransacked by alleged fraud. AJ Legault continues to follow where your tax dollars are going in his multi-year investigation, Recovery Inc.
So there's this company that built under my insurance named Action Therapy LLC. They're based in Minnesota.
A Minnesota man takes to TikTok in a series of videos.
Y'all just look at the numbers.
And he emails Care 11 Investigates alleging Medicaid fraud.
They're billing. Never been there before. Never even heard of it until recently.
Muhammad Ali said he'd never heard of Action Therapy until he requested his insurance billing records. His Medicaid coverage is through taxpayer-funded Hennepin Health. When he got his records, he discovered in just 9 months, between August of 2024 and May 2025, Action Therapy billed $211,000. It was not all approved, but the records show they were paid nearly $85,000, he says, for doing nothing.
They run up them digits, man.
Muhammad currently lives in Kenya, but still questioned the charges in his name. Abbas Farah with Action Therapy emailed him, blaming the billing on a clerical mix-up and promised a full internal review.
Back-to-back days.
So, who is Action Therapy? When Care 11 first started investigating back in June, this was their website. It claimed they are psychotherapists. Right away, we found red flags. Action Therapy's website listed their non-working phone number as 012-345-6789. Then, their website went dark. In July, a new company website launched. This time, it claims they provide adult rehabilitative mental health services, known by the acronym ARMS, which focuses on real-life skills like budgeting, cooking, personal hygiene, medication management, transportation use, and healthy communication. ARMS is a Medicaid program overseen by the Minnesota Department of Human Services.
The ARMS, or the Adult Rehabilitative Mental Health Services Program.
Just last week, Acting U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson flagged ARMS as yet another program the feds are investigating for rampant fraud, as he announced federal wire fraud charges in the wake of Care 11's investigation into the Housing Stabilization Program.
The level of fraud in these programs is staggering.
Adult Rehabilitative Mental Health Services. Yeah. I can think of someone who could use a psychoanalysis, as he might just be retarded.
In that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find an offensive nuts or retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
Because you don't think
You have a problem with him? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
And yeah, there's something wrong with Walz. But by Tampon Timmy retaliating and lashing out, accusing critics of demonizing an entire community, Walz shifts focus from the convicted fraudsters, dozens charged with stealing funds for kids' meals and housing, to broader accusations of prejudice. This echoes Democratic rhetoric often used against conservatives, labeling concerns about immigration or crime as lazy bigotry. Yet, as I am sure you all can see, or would at least agree to, it's a one-way street with these Dems. Because when MAGA wears a red hat and we fly our American flags proudly, patriotically, and with pride, they're quick to brand us far-right extremists, racists, fascists, Nazis, or worse, without us being afforded similar caveats about not demonizing an entire community. See what I'm saying? And so Walz's line here feels like projection, especially since President Trump's recent Truth Social posts called out the refugee burden in Minnesota and labeled Walz seriously retarded for his inaction. And he stands by that labeling and classification.
I do, before we move on, want to give you a chance to respond to something else that the president said. He said that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar probably came to the U.S. illegally, mocked the hijab that she wears, and he called your governor, quote, retarded.
These words shouldn't even be repeated by anyone, much less a president of the United States. Again, he goes after people because they look different than him. He goes after our governor and uses a slur that, by the way, has now led a legislator in Indiana who has a kid with disabilities to say that he's not going to vote with him on the redistricting vote in Indiana. These are the kinds of things he does. And they try to tear people apart, but as we saw from the midterm elections, it's not working. People look at their grocery bills, they know who to blame. They don't want to see the chaos, they don't want to see the corruption. They mourn for the loss of this National Guard member, but they do not believe you should use it to turn away 24 million people who are already in this country, who are naturalized citizens.
Klobuchar here is mad, big mad, because President Trump called Walz retarded. Maybe she is too, but apparently glosses over calling Trump Hitler, a Nazi, a white supremacist, a bigot, a dictator, a convicted felon, a rapist, and calling ICE Gestapo is perfectly okay with them. The internet's reaction is to tell Amy to just shut the fuck up already, as she doubles down on race baiting and identity politics. And don't even get me started on that other thing that she said. Democrats don't try. Liberals, they actually tear people apart.
A stupid and kind of silly thing for me to say. I reacted to kind of a notification and the headline. I had no real context for, what happened. I didn't really understand the severity of the situation.
There'll be some people listening saying, well, did you really need to know how severe the situation was? I mean, you knew a guy who you'd met had got shot. I mean, some people would say, how could you react that way?
No, of course. And I think it's a valid position. I think.
Why did you?
I think part of Mr. Kirk's comments don't exist in a vacuum, He is an incredibly kind of polarizing figure. And I think it's almost a symptom of him, and my reaction, a symptom of kind of how we have discourse online in which, it's oftentimes very reactive. It's oftentimes about saying something almost inflammatory, almost because I wanted to say spark a conversation about kind of what happened, the fact that, oh my God, this is such a major event that's just taken place. And
you wanted to get a reaction.
Exactly. I wanted to get a reaction. I wanted to have a conversation and,
a laugh?
Almost exactly, like a laugh and a bit of a reaction. And kind of, I realized afterwards that, that wasn't the right way to go about it.
But yes, Oxford Union President-elect George Abercrombie, who once debated Charlie Kirk, says he made fun of Kirk getting shot because he wanted to get a laugh and spark a conversation. And I quote, "Charlie Kirk got shot. Let's go," is what Abercrombie said after Kirk was shot. Charlie Kirk got shot. LOOOL. Not quite sure why so many O's, but that's what he said on Instagram. Abercrombie says the comments were simply a way of wanting to have a conversation and a laugh. And that's just absolutely disgusting, folks. I rest my case. But getting back to Tampon Timmy, no balls walls, he swallows a load like he loves to do, I hear, and gets down on his bended knee and calls the insult a badge of honor while blaming Trump for normalizing hateful behavior. What a cuck. But let's take a look at all the hypocrisy in the broader lens. And I just want to know, are you all frustrated by the left's double standards and the media running cover? Democrats frequently paint conservative values, patriotism, border security, fiscal accountability as threats to democracy, equating red, white, and blue flag waving with fascism while changing state flags like Minnesota's to look more like Somalia's. Talk about treasonous. But when a $1 billion fraud scam hits programs for the needy, Walz defends by praising the state's appeal to immigrants while downplaying the theft. It's not condoning fraud, but it minimizes the damage to taxpayers and erodes trust in systems meant to help everyone. But we all know if the roles were reversed, say, I don't know, a Republican governor overseeing fraud tied to a specific group, they'd face unrelenting hypocrite labels from the left. And here, Kristen Welker and Meet the Press on MSNBC or MS Now, I don't know which one it is, tries to hand Walz a pass by invoking anti-bigotry claims on air, which we all see as a shield for his incompetence. But, and so now we've got this one guy on taxpayer-funded Medicaid, living it up in Kenya of all places, requested his billing records and found a fake Somali-run company called Action Therapy LLC had billed over $211,000 for services he never actually got. Their business phone number is 012-345-6789. Like it's a scene out of a movie with a 555-555-5555. What the fake employee names, stock photos on the website, and the Minnesota DHS saw zero issues? Right.
Well, it's not just stealing money. It's taking away from people that already are poor, broke, homeless, have no options, or on their last leg.
Citing Carol Evans reporting, agents raided Liberty Plus and its owner's home as part of a federal investigation into widespread fraud. Then, just last week, federal charges.
Anwar Ahmed Adaw, the owner of Liberty Plus LLC, is also being charged here.
Now, here we are, going back to the same address and suite, looking for Action Therapy, accused by a client of billing for services not provided.
Suite 400, Action Therapy. Liberty Plus, the housing stabilization place that was raided, is also listed here.
Suite 400 is actually filled with small, individual office spaces, which rent for less than $300 per month. After wandering empty hallways, we spotted a sticker on a door.
It says Action Therapy.
The lights were off. The door was locked. Our questions for Action Therapy unanswered.
All right, well, let's get out of here. Looks like a dead end again.
Well, eventually, a lawyer for Action Therapy contacted us. She responded to our emailed interview request and said her clients declined to meet for an interview, but she sent a statement saying, in part, they have no ties to Liberty Plus and deny allegations that they have intentionally improperly billed clients. Rena.
And mind you, This is the same state where Somali fraudsters have been caught funneling $500 million to Islamic terror groups back home, all while claiming funds for autistic kids. This is the same state Ilhan Omar represents. And just so we're clear, if a foreigner comes to your country and demands you accept their culture as your culture, or demands that you change your beliefs for and to suit their own religious needs, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's not an immigrant, that's an invader.
Just so we're clear, if a foreigner comes to your country and demands that you accept their culture as your culture, or demands that you change your beliefs, that is not a foreigner. That is not an immigrant. What that is an invader. That is someone that is coming over to your space to take over and invade it. So when you sit there and you look at what's happening in New York, you look at what's happening in Texas, you look at what's happening in the places where these people came from, you look at Somalia, you look at all of these individuals who are being put into a position of power who support this type of invasion. You need to understand what's coming next. They will take away our weapons. They will tell us that we cannot eat certain foods. They will tell us that we cannot go to certain places. They will tell our women that they have to wear certain clothes. They will tell them that they have to dress modest. They will force them to do a lot of different things. You will have to deal with people praying in the middle of the street while you're driving and stopping you and invading your movement, your space. You need to understand what's taking place in America so that you can understand that these people are not coming here with good intentions. This is not me saying that I hate people. This is me basically saying, look, if you like the fact that America is a free place where you get the freedom to believe in what religion you want to believe in, if you get the freedom to decide what you want to do as long as nobody is getting hurt, if you love that part of America, the freedom of choice part of America, you need to understand when people come over and they say that you don't have a choice, they probably should go, because you don't get to tell us what to do in our own country. It's not being rude. It's just saying, hey, look, this country was built in a way where everybody can come here and feel happy and feel blessed and enjoy the fact that this is a free nation, not a nation that will be enslaved by any foreigner invading it.
And so Ilhan Omar, she's out here, there, holding press conferences, not condemning the theft, but blasting folks for demonizing her community. And she straight up said the U.S. government exists to serve Somalia's interests, vowing to fight Trump's crackdown on temporary protected status for Somalis. Quote, "We see you. We stand with you," she told them, promising to adjust statuses before deportations hit. But she may be singing a different tune, a different song now.
I mean, I have no worry. I don't know how they take away my citizenship and like deport me, but I don't even know like why that's such a scary threat. Like, I'm not the 8-year-old who escaped war anymore. I'm grown. My kids are grown. Like, I can go live wherever I want.
Sounds like something an invader would say, right? But get this. She admitted most Somalis chose Minnesota to congregate, build power, and maintain their culture, turning it into a mini Somalia, Mogadishu, where clan wars from back home can even sway local elections here. But wait, there's more, because sadly it only gets worse.
Fox to reveal what's really going on. Doge exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. Doge has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, Doge says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. Doge also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote, and Doge says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying, he's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
The guilt of misinformation must fall on the parties responsible. For instance, this man here with one of the worst moves by the Democrats, attacking with the use of force and political weaponization, striking Elon Musk as Joe Biden, seen here at the EV summit, where he didn't invite Tesla. And he told, you know what, better yet, matter of fact, he lied about GM and Mary, saying that they led the EV revolution.
Here in Detroit, you're going to set a new pace for electric vehicles. This is not hyperbole, this is a fact. In the auto industry, Detroit's leading the world in electric vehicles. You did, Mary. You electrified the entire automobile industry. I'm serious. You led.
You electrified the entire automobile industry. I'm serious. You led. You led.
And it matters. And drastically improving the climate by reducing hundreds of millions of barrels of oil that will not be used.
Talk about being retarded. And I don't even know how Biden could say such a thing. While Elon Musk is blasting off and catching rockets to and from outer space, bringing mobility back to the disabled, improving driving safety for all, allowing internet access and cell connectivity around the world, no one in their right mind would even remotely consider GM and Mary Barra as the leader, a pioneer and innovator in EV revolutions. But it's all a psyop anyway, just like Elon Musk has pointed out. And the woke mind virus was easy to measure. Take a look at these charts. The media exponentially ramped up their propagandized rhetoric and hate. For instance, the yearly mentions of prejudice in popular U.S. news media outlets and the use of terms racist, racism, sexism, sexist, misogyny, homophobia, transphobic, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitism. But now it's all being purged. The woke mind virus in the media is slowly dying with our calm conversations and chats that we have here, folks. These podcasts, independents like myself and others. Hawk says, I'm in my 80s and Chapter saved us $1,100 a year. Richard, his comment reads, I called Chapter and I saved $1,200. Thanks, Kevin. Tom Swank, thank you for Chapter info. They helped me so much and got me an unreal better plan, saved me hundreds. And Ava, no need to apologize with this comment here that says, sorry, Kevin, but credit from my Chapter experience went to your wife. Hers is the number I used. And look, that's just great. I want you all to get the greatest care possible and find potential money savings regardless. AEP is ending soon, and now is the time to call if you haven't already. 270-467-2426. Dial it, call them, and tell them Kevin sent you, or Michelle and ST Talks. But no matter what, make sure you call before the deadline. The clock is ticking, and call volume will increase as we close in on crunch time. Free Medicare help and advice, folks. Call the number on the screen. Learn more. Links below in the description as well. But so now, ladies and gentlemen, as I stated at the beginning of this video, it's officially over for the Democrats and they've been busted. Their fraud and scams exposed, and conspiracy theory no more. And Senator John Kennedy was right. We need more because all the other ones have all come true.
Sounds to me like we need to get some new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true.
Facts matter, Senator.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracy theorists are up something like 37-0.
But here is Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem calling out the Biden-Harris regime having awarded over 9 million illegal alien Social Security numbers, including 9 100,000 who were on the terrorist watch list.
He's brilliant. He's going to be working to make sure that individuals who got Social Security numbers in this country should be using them for the right things, and they shouldn't be on our benefit programs. You know, we have over 6,000 individuals that have been identified through their work already that have been on the terrorist watch list, that they are known criminals.
How does that happen, Madam Secretary? How does that happen?
It happens when you put a train wreck like Joe Biden in the White House, and it's going to be a lot of work to clean it up. But just in the last 4.5 years, we've had over 9 million people get Social Security numbers that are not U.S. citizens. So they may be people who have some sort of legal status, but a lot of them are illegals that were given a Social Security number in just the last 4.5 years that we're going to have to figure out if they should be here, if they are here legally under a program, and if they are here illegally, then they certainly shouldn't be using that Social Security number to be on our programs, and they should be removed or given the opportunity to go home on their own. That's the one thing President Trump would like, is everybody to be given the opportunity to go home if they would wish to.
She's right. A train wreck. And we have the Director of National Intelligence, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, having just declassified documents confirming that the Biden-Harris train wreck placed law-abiding American citizens on terror watch lists for speaking out against the deep state regime.
That when you look at the language of these documents that I've declassified, first, the strategic implementation plan of the Biden administration's designation of potential violent domestic extremists, it really talks about people who may likely turn out to be domestic violent extremists, or those who may likely turn to violence because of these specific quote unquote ideologies that they hold. And there's a consistent thread through here that these ideologies that they are designating as turning into potentially violent activities or being manifested in violent activities happen to be those of people who were using their First Amendment rights to oppose certain policies of the Biden administration.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
And while some of the examples that are focused on there have to do with those who opposed the COVID vaccine mandates, those who opposed the mask mandates, parents who were concerned that their children going to school may be forcibly vaccinated with the COVID vaccine without the consent or awareness of parents. The list goes on, but it's not exclusive to this. In some of these reports that we've declassified, it shows that people who were opposed to Biden's border policy, for example, could therefore have propensities to join a militia or could become these domestic violent extremists that we're talking about here. And again, it's important to look at this in the totality and the sequence of how this happened. These documents were issued in December of 2021. You remember very well, Will, the speech, the ominous speech that President Biden gave in 2022, where with this red background and Marines standing in the background, he issued an address to the nation warning the American people that Donald J. Trump and MAGA Republicans pose a direct threat to the fabric of our republic.
MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans quote a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can We are not powerless in the face of these threats.
And then you put that together with how the FBI and others within the Biden administration directed social media companies to censor Americans and undermine our First Amendment rights because, of course, the social media companies don't want to be in a position to support the spread of domestic violent extremism. So when you look at all of these things together, you understand at its core the thing that I committed to the American people to root out, which is the weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community and national security state against the American people.
MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. We've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail.
Talk about propaganda. Wow. But like I said, folks, they're done. It's over. Finished. And yes, conspiracy theory, no more. And I want you to watch and or listen to this next piece from Stephen Miller, who says, and I quote, "The Democrat Party, via the Biden-Harris terrorist administration, devised the scheme to import illegal aliens into the country by the millions, granting them parole, which gives them work permits, which then gives them social security numbers, which then gives them access to the voting booths, and finally hooking them on welfare like Hunter Biden was hooked on drugs, all while the sole purpose of participating in U.S. elections and ultimately overthrowing the constitutional republic of the United States."
It for your audience perfectly, Sean. This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions, and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting booth. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement for serious crimes, for crimes against children, for felonies, for crimes that threaten public safety, and they are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again. By any definition, what California is doing is criminal. It is a violation of our laws. It is one of the most heinous things that I have seen in my entire...
And might I add that you can't be of Muslim faith and agree with the U.S. Constitution.
Wherever Islam goes, it is a totalitarian, dictatorial, demonic ideology. You can't be a faithful Muslim and believe the Constitution. You can't. True Islam doesn't believe in freedom of speech. You go to an actual Islamic nation and you just speak against the prophet, you don't have freedom of speech. In addition, you don't have freedom of religion. It started with the false prophet Muhammad in 570 AD-ish. He says he was visited by an angel. Well, Galatians tells us if an angel comes from heaven and preaches something other than the gospel of Jesus Christ, it is demonic, to be rejected and cursed. Literally, he got a demonic visitation. Yeah.
And so there's that. However, Elon Musk agrees and reposted and quoted this clip saying, "This is what happened. It's true, heinous and seditious. Thankfully, we don't have to live through another 4 years of hell and even another minute of Biden's terrible teleprompter speech script reading. Instead, we are so fortunate to have MAGA rising stars, quite like Stephen Miller, whom his wife refers to him as the sexual matador."
You are married to Stephen Miller, so you are the envy of all women. What is that like?
The sexual matador, right?
What is it like being married to such a sexual matador?
He is an incredibly inspiring man who gets me going in the morning with his speeches being like, let's start the day. I am going to defeat the left and we are going to win. He wakes up the day ready to carry out the mission that President Trump was elected to do.
And I'm sure you all would agree, much like Randy Fine has summed it up here, just the latest damage and destruction caused by the Democrats and their policies. And the congressman goes down the list. He points out the obvious, addressing the elephant in the room. Somalians are trying to take over our cities in Minnesota. Foreigners in New York recently voted for a different mayor than natural-born citizens. A Muslim terrorist just shot 2 National Guardsmen in D.C. this week. We have made massive problems for ourselves. This is all self-inflicted. The only way we solve this crisis is by kicking them all out now.
I'd prefer to simply deport them all. I mean, I think we have tens of millions of people that we have allowed into this country who never should have been here. We've been so focused on illegal immigration. I sometimes wonder if the left was trying to distract us by letting so many illegals in that they were shuttling in tens of millions of legal immigrants. How did these Somalians get here? How did so many people get to New York who are voting for a different mayor than natural-born citizens? How are people gunning down National Guardsmen in our streets? We have made massive problems. This is a self-inflicted wound, and we have to do something about it, and it starts with kicking them all out.
And so you see, ladies and gentlemen, folks, this isn't London. This isn't Somalia or even Afghanistan. This is Minneapolis. And there are crowds of hijab, headscarf wearing Muslims screaming in parks where parents should be able to take their kids to play. Is this the America you want for your children? I don't. Do you think ICE should deport all third worlders? Leave a comment. Let me know. Elon Musk thinks any violation of the oath of citizenship should result in deportation. Nick Sorter agreed and added, we need to start denaturalizing America haters and immigration fraudsters like Ilhan Omar, and we need to do it quickly. Oh, and get this. Representative Ilhan Omar, the Democrat out of Minnesota, says she wants to force all Americans to register their guns so the government can start a buyback program. What do you all think about that?
We have more guns in this country than we have humans. So one of the things that's going to be important is to create a registry. So we know where the guns are. We can know when they go into the wrong hands, when they're stolen. And we can actually start a buyback program. I know that some of the Minnesota legislators have had that legislation, and that's something that we should be thinking about on a federal level.
So what she's really saying is she wants to force Americans to be defenseless. Here's a better idea. Deport Ilhan Omar, which may very well be happening here soon, real soon. And so you see, The State Department is reportedly in the process of revoking the citizenship of Democrat Congresswoman and Somali refugee Ilhan Omar and initiating deportation proceedings to remove her from our country on the basis that she committed immigration fraud by marrying her brother to illegally become a United States citizen, allegedly. This is a part of the administration's recent crackdown on radical jihadists sympathizing Somali refugees in Minnesota. Note, President Trump, he ain't playing around. This is a public service for our entire country, and we've all been saying it for years. Send her back. Send them all back. And in case you were unsure why President Trump is expelling all third world Somalis, Mohammed, a Somali illegal alien, was arrested for raping a woman to death outside of her South Nashville church earlier this year.
Pretty troubling story. On the steps of a church in South Nashville, a woman died after being sexually assaulted while she was unconscious.
Our Dryden quickly talked to people who work just feet away from where this happened.
It was actually the Nashville Fire Department that was driving by around 9:30 last night when they saw the sexual assault taking place right here on these church steps. Security video that they have captured everything that led up to it. Just before this, police say the church's cameras show a woman walking unsteadily towards the steps. A man who they say is 39-year-old Mohammed sits down beside her and tries to touch her as she pushes him away. Then they say she starts to go in and out of consciousness. That's when Mohammed picks her up, then repeatedly assaults her. The fire department stepped in and she was taken to the hospital where she died.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is who Democrats are harboring from ICE, and exactly who President Trump, the hero of this saga, dropping nightmare news on like it's confetti, whom on board Air Force One, he didn't mince words, says, we don't want those people. Countries like Somalia, that have virtually no government, no military, no police, all they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them. He singled out Ilhan Omar, roaring. She supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. And well, if that's true, she shouldn't be in Congress and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
Off of that, in that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many...
Boom. There it is, folks. All the reporters gasped, and the internet just exploded. Trump even floated denaturalizing criminals who slipped in under Biden, pausing asylum for years if needed. And on Tim Walz, when pressed if he stood by calling him retarded, Trump doubled down. And he said, yeah, there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would allow those people into a state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia, there's something wrong with Walz. My feed has been lighting up like a Christmas tree. My inbox flooded, notifications, alerts, DMs. I can hardly keep up with the latest flood and outpouring. Elon Musk chimed in on a viral clip about invaders demanding cultural changes. Stephen Miller exposed the Democrat plot to import millions of illegals, grant them parole, work permits, social security numbers, and hook them on welfare, all to rig elections and overthrow our republic. Doge confirmed over 3.9 million social security numbers issued to illegals since 2021, with 1.4 million on Medicaid. Total and absolute insanity. And we have a sad and tragic story coming out of Tennessee, where a Somali illegal in Nashville raped a woman to death outside her church as Democrats harbored him from ICE. This and these are examples of the nightmares unfolding for Somalis in Minnesota. Billions in fraud exposed, whistleblowers vindicated, and Trump slamming the door on unchecked migration. They want it to spread across the country. And so keep your eyes on New York City, on Seattle, on Los Angeles, Nashville, for starters, folks. But President Trump and his team, his administration, we are all working hard to put an end to the madness. Each and every new subscriber to my channel and share of my video helps tremendously. No more free rides on taxpayer dime. No more turning a blind eye to scams funding terror abroad. Tim Walz's spirals, Ilhan Omar's is raging out. But the truth is out, folks. America first means cleaning house. And we've got fraud rings busted, borders secured, and radicals on notice. Trump promised to fix it, and he's absolutely delivering on campaign promises made and promises kept. Goodbye, Ilhan Omar. Goodbye, Tim Walz. Goodbye, illegals, fraudsters, dirty demon rats, and rhinos. Goodbye for good. The swamp will be drained. And yet another great chat, y'all. Thanks for tuning in for this conversation. No spin, no clickbait, just the facts and the truth. Stay safe out there. And let's catch back up real soon. Thank you all for your support. God bless you. God bless you and your families. And God bless America. See you next time.